Did you see the video? Did you see what I did? Welcome to Soleil Shines. As you can see, I went skydiving last week. It was not something I was initially planning to do. My best friend was in town, and my brothers were like, oh, we're going. And my brother Carter invited my younger brother Ashton. And I was like, why didn't you invite me? And he's like, oh, well, I don't know why. So then Kaylee Shay and I got to talking, and we're like, let's do this. Let's look into this. And so we looked into their place, but their place just wasn't the right fit. So we ended up going to Santa Cruz. And up until the moment I was like, oh my God, are we actually going to do this? It wasn't, like, she's like, oh, it's on my bucket list. I want to check it off. And it wasn't really necessarily on mine, but it was something I'm like, I would do. And if she's one of my best friends, then I would do it with her. And it was amazing. My nerves, went really high right before we got into the plane. And we got on the plane and, bam, all it was excitement. All I was waiting to do was to jump out of that plane. And in my life, I noticed that to take some power back for myself, I choose the things I want. For example, I get a lot of IVs. I get a lot of needle pokes. I get a lot of uncomfortable things that happen in my life due to my NF2. And so a few years ago, I was like, you know what? I want a tattoo. I want to choose this pain. I want to choose these needles. And I got a tattoo. As you can see my foot, that's my tattoo. It's I love you with the sun in the middle. My lovely foot. But anyway, so skydiving is the same thing. It's a fall I chose to take. I fall a lot due to my balance. But this was a fall that I wanted, that I took power and control of, and it was awesome. But I wanted to go more in depth on how the whole process made me feel skydiving. So I met my tandem instructor, and he was a very cool guy. He was from New Zealand, which made me happy because I've been to New Zealand and it was one of my favorite places I've ever been. And he made me more comfortable, and he was just a great asset to have at that experience, for this experience. And so we get in the plane and we really get comfy cozy with each other because he has to hook us up together. And I was at the back of the plane and my best friend was at the in the front of the plane. So we were climbing, in elevation. And, I couldn't really check in with her to see how she was. We weren't talking because she was so far away. So we signed to each other, which everyone in the plane thought was cool. But, we couldn't talk about oh my God, this is crazy. But we had been doing that the days leading up to it anyway. So, finally we get to the 15,000 feet. That's how high we jumped. And they opened the doors. And one by one we all scooched on our bum. We all get on our bum, and I see Kaylee Shay scooch to the end of the plane, and whoop, she's out of the plane, she's gone. And then we're the last ones to go out of the plane. You think that could give me some time to be yeah, no, I don't want to do this. Just take me down. But I'm hell no. I'm going to jump out of this plane. This is so exciting. And we did. And it was a rush. And it was the world was coming at us so quickly. But free falling was such a liberating feeling. And I fucking loved it. It was awesome. And it really does like kind of suck the breath out of you, which, as I talked about last week with anxiety, maybe that's something I wouldn't have wanted. Like my therapist told me, she's like, wow, you really sucked the fight or flight. You really squeezed it all out by doing that. She's like, you didn't think about how, like, maybe you could, get hurt. Blah, 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 all these things. I was like, no, I really didn't think about it. Because my other friend, Chinook, she said that she coped by looking at everything that could go wrong. And I'm like, no, that's not how I cope. That would make me much more anxious. So, anyway, we're falling, and it was a 70-second free fall. And we had to go out of the plane like this. And then, like, he taps us, and then we can go like this. Anyway, and so all the air is, like, rushing at you, and you're, like, just looking at life from a different perspective. And then, after what seems like 2 minutes, he pulls a parachute, and you just, like, go on a joyride. And I got to, like, hold the parachute, and I got to control it for a little bit, and that was awesome. And I was the last one to jump out, so I was the last one to land. And my friend got to watch me land, and that was awesome. And when he landed, I was like, it took a while to get my bearings, and so I had to hold on to my dude, because he was trying to unhook me, and I'm like, I can't balance. He's like, okay, you can hold on to me. But anyway, after that experience, I kind of like was on this high. I didn't know how I felt. My body was going through a bunch of things. It was like, what did we just do? I was trying to protect you from that exact circumstance, and we just did it. And we survived. So my body was like going through a bunch of emotions and a bunch of feelings. And for about the next, like, few hours, not to discourage people from doing it, like, my breathing was like, okay, it was, because like I said, I kind of took that fight or flight reaction and just squeezed it and got squeezed it to its, like, tightest level it can go to. Yeah. And so I was feeling, like, shaky, and my best friend's like, I want to go to the arcade now. And I was like, we got some milkshakes. And I was like, I'm just going to sit by, because we were at Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, and I was like, I'm just going to sit by the beach and just chill. And I'm so glad I did that, because my body was like, yeah, we're not ready to do bam, bam, bam. Like, you just did a crazy thing. Let's take a time out. And when I got home, I'd still feel this way, like my breathing was like a little bit like, I was having some anxiety, and I'm like, why does this feel so weird? And I'm like, just get home, just get to your safe place, and you'll feel fine, and I did. And my mom's like, oh, my family friend did this, and she said if you have a Coke or like a sugary thing to drink, it helps your body like regulate itself. And I'm like, oh, I wish I knew that. That was my phone calling to schedule my MRIs, which I can talk about later. Anyway, back to the Coke. So, I recommend that if you plan to go skydiving, have like a sugary drink or caffeinated drink to just, because your body goes through a lot. Mine went through a lot. Thankfully, I was so nervous I thought my ears were going to hurt. I talked to all my doctors. They're like, oh, we're kind of concerned about your middle ear. And I was like, and I was having some kind of ear infection going on anyway. Because I always have things going on with me, unfortunately. But nothing hurt. And I was like, what? Except for this, this weird feeling. And my friend came down and she's like, oh, I couldn't breathe coming down. My ears hurt. And I'm like, I'm never this person in this situation. I'm never the one that's not complaining about how it made me feel, which Sucks to say that, but it was awesome for me. And I mean, I just felt like I took control of my life. I took control. I felt how I wanted to. And that was definitely a check off the bucket list. And check off the life list. And before I went, I talked to my main neurologist in Boston. And he's like, and I'm like, is skydiving okay with NF2? And he says, you know what? You gotta live with NF2. You gotta live with it. Don't let it prevent you from doing things. You gotta live with it. Because it is a mofo at times. But you just gotta push it aside sometimes and go, you know what? No, I'm not talking to you today. I'm just gonna do me and jump out of an airplane at 15,000 feet. And guess what? My brothers are doing the same thing today. And I did it before my brothers. Boom. So that made me happy too. Anyway, that's my little spiel. It was awesome. I loved it. And next week I will talk about preparing for surgery. And I'll tell you about how crazy my month of July looks as well. Thank you for watching. Soleil Shines. See you next time.
Alright, so we're back. How are we feeling?
Awesome!
You
That
enjoyed
was so amazing.
Yeah, you did a great job.
Woo!
We'll see you next
New
time.
Zealand! Woo!
Alright.